Okay, today for penmanship we're going to talk about canoeing. Has anybody ever been in a canoe before? Well, here's a picture of a canoe, and you can see a canoe. You can have one person in a canoe. You can have more than one person in a canoe. And you're always going to wear a life jacket. We'll talk about that more in a minute. You would canoe probably in a lake, maybe down a river, but that would be really fast, going fast down a river. And you have paddles where you put them in the water and you move the water, and that moves the boats. There's special ways you can move the paddles to help you be able to steer the boat. So we're going to talk a little bit about canoeing today. Some things to know. The word canoe means dugout. I have no idea why, because canoeing, boating, and baseball are not the same. But maybe it could be that a canoe long ago was dug out of maybe a tree. What do you think? There's probably a good reason for it. Maybe you could give me an idea why you think it means dugout. Okay, a canoe is usually around 16 feet long. That's really long. To give you an idea how long 16 feet is, if Mrs. Zimmerman laid down on the ground, I could lay down almost 3 times. Mrs. Zimmerman, Mrs. Zimmerman, Mrs. Zimmerman, to equal the length of a canoe. Inside a canoe, maybe 2 Mrs. Zimmermans could go inside, but they're very long. They can hold a lot of people. Also, you should always wear a life vest when you go canoeing. Why? Because you could fall out of that guy, and if you don't know how to swim, or even if you do know how to swim, it can be kind of tricky if you land in the water and you weren't planning on it. So always wear a life vest when you're boating. Okay, so here's some questions that you want to think about if you're going to write about canoeing. Okay, where would you canoe? Canoe is kind of a funny spelling of a word. C-A-N-O-E. I don't know how well you can see it. It's hard, you would not be able to sound it out. It's kind of a crazy spelling of a word. So C-A-N-O-E, canoe. Where would you canoe? Well, would you do it in the ocean? I don't think so. I mean, there might be some people that do it in the ocean, but the ocean waters are so uncertain, it would be very hard to canoe in the ocean. Could you do it in a creek? No, creek waters are not deep enough. Could you do it in a lake? Yeah, you could do it in a lake or a very deep pond. Could you do it in a river? You could. It'd be a little trickier because rivers move a little bit faster. So a nice still lake would be the best place to canoe. What would you see? What would you see if you were canoeing in the lake? You might see a lot of bugs. You might want to wear bug spray because when you get on the water, those bugs come after you. You might see other people. Other people are canoeing with you. You might see the oars or the paddles that you use to steer. Okay. You could see trees around the lake. Could you see fish jumping in and out of the water? Or frogs in a lily pad? Could you see a snake on top of the water? I have before. What would you do if you tipped over? This would be a great question to answer in your journal. What would you do if your canoe tipped over? Now I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I went to a camp, and they used to tip our canoes over on purpose, knock us into the water, and we had to practice getting back into the canoe. And I'll tell you, I never one time did it. It was so hard to get back into the canoe after I had fallen out. Someone always had to help me get back into the canoe because it was hard work. So it's a good idea to never, ever, ever tip your canoe. So I think if my canoe tipped over, I would just swim back to shore or float back to shore. I don't know. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to pull out your journal. We're going to talk about a few buzzwords here. We have the word water. Obviously, you need water if you're going to canoe because you can't canoe on land. I mean, you can sit there, but you won't go anywhere. This is the word canoe, and I told you it's kind of a funny spelling. I'll get a little bit closer so you can see it. It's kind of a funny spelling. Okay, there we go. It's kind of a funny spelling, but you're going to need to know how to spell that if you're going to write in a canoe. C-A-N-O-E. And then also I have the word over here, paddle, P-A-D-D-L-E. So you would need a paddle if you're going to canoe. So I want you to write for me. It's hard to see me, isn't it? I want you to write for me at least 2 or 3 sentences about what it would be like to ride in a canoe. How many of you have ever ridden in a canoe before? I would love, if you have a picture of you in a canoe, that would be fun. Tell me about that. So I want you to write a couple of sentences about going in a canoe, and then also draw a picture of what it might look like. You can copy this picture here if you want to. Okay, I'm going to leave that up there for a minute if you need to use these words to copy, and then you can get started.